Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Wednesday, June the 10th. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set for a modestly higher open with ASX futures up around 13 points. Global equity markets were mixed amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, with President Trump vowing to respond to Iran shooting down a US helicopter that was patrolling the Strait of Hormuz. On Wall Street, a rebound in tech shares fizzled, sending the S&P 500 and Nasdaq lower. The Philadelphia Semiconductor Index dropped more than 8%, but recovered to end around 2% lower, and the Cboe Volatility Index hit its highest level in 2 months as stocks sold off. Investors are also bracing for US inflation data, which may point to the need for interest rate hikes. Among the chip makers, which were hit hard during Friday's sell-off, Broadcom fell while Nvidia was down slightly. Apple shed more than 3.5%, with the stock having hit a record high the previous session. The biggest movers on the S&P 500 were Supermicro Computer, which fell heavily, while snacks maker J.M. Smucker and logistics giant FedEx were among the best performers. Shares of network tech company Ciena fell after it announced pricing on a convertible debt offering. And anticipation is building ahead of the SpaceX IPO, which is set to become the largest ever, with it so far drawing more than $250 billion of investor demand, dwarfing the $75 billion that Elon Musk-led company is seeking to raise. Well, US Central Command in the Middle East has said its forces have begun launching self-defense strikes against Iran in response to the downing of a US Army Apache helicopter. It says the aircraft was brought down by an Iranian attack drone, with the 2 pilots ejecting safely. Iran has denied responsibility. Explosions have been reported around the Iranian coast at the entrance of the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump said the shooting of the helicopter meant the US must respond at a time when he said negotiations with Iran were in the final throes of what will be a very, very good deal, he said. Well, the US Federal Reserve will hold its key interest rate for the rest of the year, according to a majority of economists in a Reuters poll. Inflation has risen to roughly double the Fed's 2% target, and the Reuters poll forecasts that tomorrow's inflation data is expected to show it climb to more than a 3-year high of 4.2% last month. US Treasury yields have dipped as traders await the CPI data. The US 2-year yield fell to 4.12%, the 10-year was down to 4.53%. Australian 3-year government bond yield futures fell to 4.51%, the 10-year was at 4.91%. The US dollar index down slightly. The Aussie dollar is lower at 70.2 US cents. Oil prices initially fell to a 7-week low after Iran and Israel said they had halted attacks on each other. However, the downing of a US helicopter and a subsequent retaliation has pushed crude higher. Brent crude at $92 a barrel. Gold has fallen to a more than 2-month low amid rising expectations of a US interest rate hike this year. Spot gold about 2% lower at $4,260 an ounce. Copper futures are off slightly. Iron ore is trading at around 102 US a tonne. And Bitcoin has fallen to below 62,000 US dollars. Ahead locally today, it is a quiet day on the data docket, while on the corporate calendar, an update is expected from GQG Partners, while Wesfarmers holds a strategy briefing day. That is your day ahead. See you again tomorrow.